Well, I'll call this meeting back to order. Ce matin, nous allons continuer notre étude spéciale sur les raisons pouvant expliquer les inégalités entre les prix de certains articles vendus au Canada et aux États-Unis. Colleagues, we are very pleased to welcome for this session Mr. Tom Vassos, who has taught at various universities in Canada and internationally for the past 30 years. Mr. Vassos is appearing via video conference. We are also pleased to welcome live and in our studio Mr. Michael Mulvey, Assistant Professor of Marketing with the University of Ottawa's Telfer School of Management. We will begin with Mr. Vassos' presentation and then move to Mr. Mulvey. Mr. Vassos, you have some introductory remarks?
I do, thank you. Good morning, Senators. I'd like to thank the honorable members of the Standing Senate Committee on National Finance for the opportunity to lend my expertise to the task of understanding reasons behind Canada-US price differentials. Et aux citoyens canadiens anglais et de langue française, j'espère sincèrement que vous trouverez notre discussion économique aujourd'hui informative et éducative. I've been a part-time instructor at the University of Toronto and several other universities on 4 continents for the past 30 years, and I've worked in the technology industry at IBM Canada for the past 32 years. My comments to the committee today reflect the results of my past research at U of T and these other universities, and should not be construed as representing IBM's position on this subject matter in any way. I'm also a former business ambassador for the Ontario government and current ambassador for the Greater Toronto Marketing Alliance, which is an economic development organization promoting economic development and foreign direct investment into the Greater Toronto area. To determine the logical price of an American product sold in Canada, most Canadians simply consider the current conversion rate. If the Canadian dollar is at par with the US, they feel that the price should be identical to the US price, and really nothing could be further from the truth. Americans face a myriad of costs when selling internationally into the Canadian marketplace, and I'd like to really just highlight several of those cost factors. Also, as part of the business model course that I teach at SETM's International Masters of Business Innovation program in Mexico, we take a very close look at costs that companies are faced with when they're expanding internationally into other countries like Canada. So what are some of those costs that those corporations face? Certainly provincial and federal income taxes, which are about 25% of revenues. Of course, that's a little less than what they might find in the US. But payroll taxes for Canada Pension Plan, workers' compensation, employment insurance can add up to more than $3,600 per employee. Import duties and tariffs for bringing products across the border, although 90% of these have been removed through free trade agreements. Financial costs of setting up a Canadian corporation with a board of directors and associated setup costs, registration, permit, accounting, auditing, ongoing tax filing fees, etc. Capital spending for plant and distribution equipment, cash registers, computers, software, and other supplies and services, all requiring the payment of provincial and federal sales taxes. Higher transportation and handling costs, including much higher gasoline taxes that are currently about 3 times higher than in the US, at 33% in Canada versus 11% in the US. And our vast Canadian geographic marketplace stretches from coast to coast and has a smaller population than the single state of California in the United States. Import brokerage fees for bringing products across the border. Occupancy costs for creating a distribution channel in Canada, including leasing or purchasing factories, distribution warehouses, and retail stores, and the required property taxes, insurance, and real estate commissions. Occupancy costs and personnel costs of establishing subsidiary head office operations, which may include marketing, channel, HR, advertising, PR, finance, purchasing, logistics, IT and legal functions, and commissions for manufacturing reps, sales reps, and call center reps. Inventory carrying costs, which include spoilage, markdowns for unsold products, obsolescence, and theft, which combined can often run as high as 20 to 40% or more of the value of the inventory being carried. Production labeling costs for metric label and translation costs to meet bilingual label requirements. Higher labor costs. In Canada, minimum wages range from $8.75 to $11 versus a federal minimum wage in the U.S. of $7.25. Currency conversion costs, which must be paid to financial institutions when companies want to repatriate their Canadian earnings back to U.S. dollars. Multinational suppliers often charge Canadian retailers more than U.S. merchant because of the volume discounts that larger U.S. retailers can obtain due to economies of scale. According to the Retail Council of Canada, these charges can be 12 to 25% more for Canadian companies. Entering new markets also add currency fluctuations to the list of risks that American companies need to take into account when entering a new market. Many companies opt to hedge those currency fluctuations, which adds additional cost. Higher fees to attain prime retail shelf space. Powerful retailers in Canada charge manufacturers higher retail listing, slotting, co-op, marketing, warehousing fees per SKU. Credit card transaction fees, and then finally the currency conversion rate. So as you can see, a very long list of costs that those companies are facing. The net of it is that a very small proportion of the uplifted Canadian price actually reaches the corporation's bottom line profitability, and there are many risks associated when entering a foreign market, including but not limited to currency risks and the risk of the product failing in the target country. As a result, to compensate for these risks, companies may rightly demand a higher margin on their products sold in Canada. Otherwise, why would they take that risk? I would go so far as to suggest that even if the Canadian dollar hits $1.20 to the American dollar, that there will still be products that legitimately cost more in Canada because of all of these additional cost factors that I have mentioned. Am I saying that unethical corporate practices such as price fixing and anti-competitive actions do not exist? Of course not. But case in point, the Federal Court of Canada imposed price fixing fines of $2.25 million on Chinook Group, $1.5 million on Pfizer, and $1.8 million on Cadbury, just to name a few. But these examples are exceptions to the rules, as the government already has price fixing and anti-competitive legislation in place to successfully address these situations and similar ones that may arise in the future. I totally understand that these pricing differentials are frustrating for Canadian consumers, but as business and government leaders, we need to help consumers understand where to vent that frustration and how to play a role in overcoming all of these hurdles. In the end, consumers have more power than they realize. They vote with their dollars, and every dollar they spend is a vote. And manufacturers, retailers, and the very nature of the market dynamics will react to those consumers' actions. En terminant, je voudrais remercier encore les membres du Comité des finances nationales du Sénat pour l'occasion de témoigner devant eux. J'espère que cette session aura fourni de l'information utile aux citoyens canadiens désireux de mieux comprendre les enjeux entourant les différences de prix entre le Canada et les États-Unis. I hope these comments have been of value to the Honourable Senate Committee members, and I look forward to our question and answer session. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Professor Vassos.